Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thunder Today YouTube channel. I am your host, Dylan Hibbard, and in today's video, we're going to go over what OKC's goals should be for the 2026 regular season. We'll talk about that. We're going to also dive into my favorite playoff game from this past playoffs because Chet recently told the media what his favorite playoff game was from this past postseason, so we'll dive into that. We'll also talk about our trade rumor and off-season move stuff, and then at the end we'll give you the week in review. But first off, just kind of talking about what OKC's one goal for the 2026 regular season should be. And I say regular season because we all know the goal every year for the Thunder, especially now, is to go out there and win the championship. But for the 2026 regular season, you could look at a bunch of different things, kind of what should OKC's goal be during this season, maybe to stay healthier throughout the regular season, make sure people are healthy once again come playoff time, because that's been a struggle with a lot of these teams that's been trying to go back-to-back is their health on the second part of the back-to-back year. They just haven't been able to stay healthy. But one thing that I think the Thunder should really consider, and I think their one goal for this next season to be, is to, again, have the best record across the entire league, not only in the Western Conference, but the Eastern Conference. And this showed up really big in the finals in a Game 7 because we were able to have the best record in the league and have those Game 7s in OKC. And those games are so important because if you're able to have a home court throughout the entire series, you're able to have Game 1 and 2 at home, which Game 1 obviously gets their series going, then you have Game 2 back. And then you have a Game 5 at home, which in most cases, if it's a 2-2 series, that's one of the most pivotal games in the entire series. And OKC had that at home. J-Dub goes out and drops 40, and we go up 3-2. And then we end up going to Game 7, and you're able to have Game 7 at home again. So really, if you're the home team throughout an entire playoff, you're able to have Games 1, 5, and, if necessary, 7 throughout the playoffs, which those realistically are your three biggest games depending on where you are in the series, whether it's 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, or a Game 7 and 3-3. But for the Thunder, and Mark Dagnall even talked about it, how big it was, how they wanted to jump the Cavs this past year for the best record in the league because they believed the Cavs could have made it. And if you would have had to go in where you're in Cleveland in Game 1 and 2, and then if you had a Game 5 and 7 in Cleveland, that just makes it so much harder on a young team to go out there and win. We saw them struggle on the road in Denver at some points, and even in Indiana. I mean, Game 6 in Indiana, we get absolutely blown out, and we had worries about going into Game 7, but you were a bit more confident in the team because they were playing at home. So I really think the one goal throughout this regular season for the Thunder is to really claim that best record again. I think if you're in that 68 to 70 win range, I don't think anybody realistically is going to get close to that. I think your teams that are going to be closest to you are Cavs, Knicks, Rockets, and teams like that. Maybe the Nuggets if they catch a hot streak at certain points in the year. But for me, I really do think it is the factor of making sure that you have that best record, so no matter who you run into in the Western Conference especially, and then if you get to the finals, a team like the Knicks, Cavs, maybe the Magic, you have the home court advantage, and not only the home court advantage for throughout the game, but one of the best home courts and fan bases in all of basketball, if not in all of sports. So for the Thunder to do that, I think that other than health, obviously, because obviously we want Chet and guys like that to be healthy come playoff time. But other than that, I really do think their one goal is to go out there, continue to grow, and continue to beat every team and claim that best record. So if it comes down to it where we have to play 2 Game 7s again against the Nuggets or teams like that, you have it at home and you're so much more comfortable. Your role players play better and everybody just feels better and feeds off the energy of the Paycom. But now we'll transition to more playoff talk, talking about what was your favorite 2025 playoff game, whether it was you going to one of the games if you were able to go, or just be remembering a certain game that kind of caught your eye and you were just remembered what you were doing during that game. I bring this up because Chet recently said that his favorite playoff game was Game 4 of the Minnesota Timberwolves series in Minnesota. Obviously, we talked about it on the channel yesterday. Chet is a Minneapolis kid. He grew up, and him and Jalen Suggs were on the same Minneapolis high school team, so that's his home, and he loved that he was able to go out there and play, and it was a big game for Chet right there. And for me, I think it really becomes a tale of 2 or 3 games that I kind of look at as my favorite playoff game. I always like the very first playoff game, especially the one this postseason against the Grizzlies. You kind of got off to a rough start, but you were able to calm yourselves down and get back into the groove and win. I think another one for me is Game 5 of the Finals, the Jada 40-point performance. As you can see, I have the Jada bobblehead or fathead right there. He's my favorite player on the Thunder currently. And that game for me was really just his step into near superstardom and into that top 15 to 20 player range. A lot of people didn't really believe Jada before that game. And now that he was able to go out there, drop 40 in a crucial series where the series was tied 2-2, and we go on a month, 2 months later into the offseason, and we learned that during that game he had a torn ligament in his wrist, and he was just going out there and just giving the Pacers buckets when Shea wasn't necessarily his efficient self as normal. J-Dub took over and was able to really just propel the Thunder into that 3-2 advantage before eventually winning that championship. But I think, honestly, for me, my favorite game, and I think it's my favorite because I was so nervous for it, and just the emotions throughout the entire game, was Denver's Game 7 in OKC. I remember watching it at a friend's house, and I was just like, throughout the entire night, I was so nervous about, are we going to be able to stop Jokic? Is somebody like Murray, Gordon, maybe a Christian Brown or Porter gets hot, and then it causes a lot more problems. But I really love that game because we put Caruso on Jokic, and that really just unlocked a bunch of different things where we were pretty much forcing Jokic to pass it out because we were doubling him every time. Caruso made him work for every time he got the ball, and as soon as he got the ball, there were 2 or 3 guys right there in Jokic's face, and they were pretty much forcing it out of his hand and making other guys beat him. And for me, that was just the epitome of what the Thunder's defense was all season, being able to adjust on the fly and be able to throw out there a 6'3" guard on the best player in the world and really have success doing it and causing Jokic to kind of struggle throughout the game and make his teammates work. And then we know that Michael Porter Jr. shot bad. Aaron Gordon was dealing with that injury. So it was really only Murray and Brown that you really had to worry about. And once the Thunder had them on lock, it was wrapped. So for me, just the emotions of going into that, I was so worried about, is Jokic about to have one of those games where he's going to do the turnaround fadeaway 3 at half court and it just somehow goes in and it's just going to break our hearts. But for me, that was my favorite game of this 2025 postseason. You guys will have to let me know down below what your favorite game of the playoffs was for you guys. But we'll now kind of transition into talking about another possible trade target for the Thunder and Ron Holland from the Detroit Pistons. This is a guy who, when he was coming into the draft, I was very high on. I thought he had a chance to be a very good guard in the league, but he really hasn't developed into that over in Detroit. You have Cade over there who's kind of taking the reins over there. You got Jaden Ivey, who they drafted high, and for Ron Holland, he just hasn't really been able to progress, but he's still one of those guys I think that the Thunder could get on the low, and for a team like the Pistons, they could get off a guard because if your best player is a guard, they're probably not going to use Ron Holland as well as he might hope. So for the Thunder, you could trade a bigger guy like a Kenrich Williams over there to Detroit, and he can make a difference on that team right away and bring championship pedigree over there to the Pistons, which they could really use in the Eastern Conference with it being so weak. And for the Thunder, once again, we're talking so much about these defensive guards and who can just guard and play amazing defense, and that's what the Thunder are going to be. That's their identity over these next decades. So when we're talking about trade rumors and stuff, just keep in mind most of the guys that we're looking at or who I want the Thunder to get is defensive oriented first, because that's what it seems like Sam Presti and Mark Dagnall are looking out for. They're making sure that you're not only playing one side of the ball, but you're able to produce on both sides of the ball where defense transitions into offense. And for me, Ron Holland is a guy you can get pretty cheap. You might not even necessarily have to give up a player if you don't want. The Thunder would, because their roster is full, so they would give up player and maybe a pick or two. But for Ron Holland, you could get him on the cheap and bring him over and be one of those, another defensive guard on a really good, valuable contract in that, because obviously you're going to have to worry about contracts and how that stuff will transition in the next season with the big three of J-Dub, Chet, and Shea's contract kicking in then. But we'll wrap up this video with the week in review. We got some news of the OKC G League schedule being released. If you didn't see that, it was yesterday's video. You can go back and kind of look at, if you're a big-time Thunder fan and you even keep up with G League, their G League schedule got released. And then just a bunch of news. 2K came out, so the Thunder's ratings came out. We talked about that. But we're kind of in that point of the season, and we also talked about how the end of this season, that's when training camp and media day starts. So we're right around the corner to getting back and rolling in the Thunder's quest for a back-to-back title. But that'll be it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. It helps the channel out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.